And in the financial markets, AI systems might realize, oh, it'll be easier to spoof a CFO into revealing financial results because they think they were getting an email from their auditor, send the numbers, and so now I know what the company's going to report. Or it'll be easier to make a malicious agent that spies on everybody's computer, and then they know what the activity of the company is. So that's how I get ahead instead of trying to use alternative data to figure out what's really happening at a business. I guess I'm just saying that integrity of data and cybersecurity are going to be very important because in the future, I think AI agents might conclude it's easier to cheat.
And that is Nvidia, of course, whether it stabilizes technology and some of the selling or only adds to it. How are you thinking about it?
Tom Lee warns about AI's potential risks in financial markets, emphasizing the importance of cybersecurity as AI systems could exploit vulnerabilities for unfair advantages. Nvidia's role in AI advancements is pivotal, but its market impact and valuation face scrutiny ahead of its earnings. Nvidia's expected 70% plus revenue growth makes its results a major market event, with CEO Jensen Huang's commentary on AI trends and CapEx spending highly anticipated. Analysts caution that while near-term performance may impress, longer-term growth concerns and export restrictions could pose challenges. As Nvidia's earnings approach, market reactions remain unpredictable. Investors are advised to prepare for potential volatility while closely watching Huang's insights, which could shape the AI industry's future and broader market sentiment.
So I talk to people like Dan Ives about the topic, and I talk to people who aren't necessarily huge bulls on Nvidia, but the one thing everybody seems to agree on is that commentary is going to be way more important than the magnitude of the beat. Of course, like both are important, but I really feel that we've got the first leg of the stool we got was when all the Mag 7 names reported earlier this month, and every one of them said they were either sticking to their guidance on CapEx or raising it, which I thought was probably a really good reason for the market hanging in as well as it did during earnings season. We did not get like a sell the news, even though a lot of those stocks were up big. So that was important. The next leg of the stool that you're going to get, I think, is Jensen Huang's commentary on a go-forward basis. And when you think about what the past earnings reports results have been and whether or not they've correlated to a rally in the stock or a sell-off in the stock, it's so all over the map that even if I gave you, the proverbial you, anyone watching the show, even if I gave you the number, you could not use the last 8 quarters to predict up 5%, down 10%. It's literally impossible. So let's just focus on the numbers themselves for a moment as a level set, because I want people to understand how incredibly this company is still expected to report. 38.2 billion in revenue. That would be a 73% year-over-year top-line growth number. If they exceed that, it could be 80. We have no way of knowing. EBIT should be 24.6. That's up 66%. Earnings per share should be 85 cents. That would be a 64% annual gain. So if you think about just like how monumental this stock is in terms of its size in the S&P, its size in the NASDAQ, how meaningful its commentary is for the share prices of the next 50 largest companies, it's definitely a big event. Some would call it a potentially market clearing event. I would just say if you are too big going into this number, not just on Nvidia, but on any of the other names in the AI trade, if you are too big, you got one last chance to do something about it. If you can't withstand a 10 to 15% drawdown from today because there's an adverse reaction, you can do something about it right now. And that's really the best thing I can tell you going into that number, which, of course, I'll be paying close attention to as well as the commentary.
Yeah, of course you will. Jim will be too. Barclays calls it a crucial moment for equities. Wolf says it could change market sentiment. I think that's what we're alluding to in having this conversation, given where sentiment seems to be. Tom Lee says the earnings will be key in determining if the pullback proves to be only a quote-unquote flesh wound before the markets stabilize. What do you think?
I think all of that is true. I think this is a very, very important moment for the market, particularly in a wobbly market for momentum and tech and AI names. Here's what I think. I think they're probably going to beat the numbers, and this is queuing off of what Josh just said. I think the guidance will be just fine. And who knows how the market's going to respond, because as Josh pointed out, for the last several quarters, you've had fabulous numbers, fabulous guidance, and it's been all over the map, mostly down. But more to the point, while I think this can support the market in the short term, I recently trimmed the stock, and I did that on the belief not that 2025 is going to be bad for Nvidia. I think it's going to be fabulous, but I think in 2026 that some of these little rumblings you're hearing right now, things like Microsoft announcing that it's, or Cowen saying that Microsoft is pulling back on data center leases, maybe there's validity to DeepSeek, that some of these things will come home to roost. Let me put this into perspectives with numbers, just as Josh did. Earnings for the full year fiscal year 25, ending in January 31st, going to be up over 100%. This year, ending January 31st, 26, will be up 50%. At 30 times forward earnings, the stock is attractively priced. The problem is not this year, it's next year. The growth rates have to come down.
Okay, so the numbers are going to be one thing. The call is going to be another. And then what may be an even bigger event, because it's going to be a one-on-one interview. It's a CNBC special report. It is tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. when John Fort interviews Jensen Huang. He's going to ask all the questions that you need to know about, obviously, on the other side of the earnings report. On what it means for the hyperscalers quickly, the former JP Morgan chief market strategist, Marko Kolanovic, has posted on social media, the next AI race will be how quickly can companies cut committed AI capex. Let's see what NVIDIA has to say. Let's see what they have to say about all the capex that the hyperscalers are spending on its products. It's going to be a huge event tomorrow afternoon.
Our next guest has been watching the market action around Nvidia. Let's bring in with his predictions for the earnings tomorrow and the ripple effect, potentially Bob Sloan. He's a managing partner at S3. Bob, it's good to have you. So read the tea leaves, at least as of now, about 24 hours out.
So I think NVIDIA encapsulates the real conundrum for every investor, which is NVIDIA is such a large component of every index, and it's bigger than the market cap of, I think, every single country ex Japan. So when are things indexed and correlated, and when are they not? And I think tomorrow what you're going to see when you look at short interest and you look at it technically, so look at it in terms of support and resistance, you're going to see that NVIDIA has sold off, but short interest has come down quite a bit. It floats between 280 million shares and 260 million shares. It's more towards the support, and we think you're going to see a pop tomorrow.
Bob, where do you see most of the short interest coming from? Are these active funds, hedge funds? Is it people hedging as to kind of owning some of the other Mag 7? Do you have any kind of color through that?
Yeah, so what's interesting is that the market has really changed since 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you had a lot of amazingly concentrated bets, and you had all these hedge funds blowing up. No one trades that way anymore. And NVIDIA is the marketplace. And we know that by looking at the holder structure. 70% of the ownership of NVIDIA is indexed. So if you look at the ownership structure, 70% is indexed. What's shorting against it? People are using NVIDIA not to short NVIDIA. It has nothing to do with NVIDIA. It has everything to do with shorting the rest of the market cheaply and efficiently. So it's become a risk management play rather than a play on the company itself.
So a decent level of short interest, even though you think, Bob, we could see a pop tomorrow. I know you said It is the whole market based on ownership, but Jordan Klein over at Mizuho was saying this morning he thinks NVIDIA may not even matter at this point because we've gotten all these data points through earnings where a lot of the software names, large cap and small cap, just haven't been trading that well. Look at how weak some of the kind of energy names are in the AI space, for instance. Do you think he has a point?
Yeah, I think he does. If you look at some of the ETFs, for example, you look at SPY, you look at IWM, you look at the Qs, every one of those is bearish. But it just so happens that in the short term, NVIDIA will have a pop tomorrow. When we see short interest declining, covering's happening, and when it bounces off the resistance level of short interest and the market declines, that's generally a bullish short-term signal.
Speaking of NVIDIA, we can look at shares down about 1.5% over fresh concerns about U.S. export restrictions. I have to say fresh concerns, even though if you're an investor, you know that these concerns have been looming for quite some time. They're still selling these H200 or H20 AI chips to China, but with demand spiking, there's fear that those will be next on the chopping block. NVIDIA's pushing back hard, arguing these export rules won't improve U.S. security. So with all of this uncertainty, analysts expect NVIDIA's guidance to rise, but maybe not as much as bulls had hoped, but likely still adding at least $2 billion, which isn't chump change. Scott.
Christina, thanks.
Nvidia's upcoming earnings report is a crucial moment for the markets, with expectations of over 70% year-over-year revenue growth. CEO Jensen Huang's commentary is anticipated to shape market sentiment, as Nvidia's performance not only impacts its stock but also sets the tone for the broader tech and AI sectors. Despite optimism, concerns such as export restrictions and slowing data center investments add uncertainty to the outlook. As a major index component, Nvidia's results could significantly influence market trends. While short-term gains are possible, experts highlight the volatility and emphasize cautious positioning. The report and its insights into AI investments and hyperscaler spending will provide a clearer picture of the tech industry's future. How do you think Nvidia's earnings will shape the future of the AI industry? Do you believe Nvidia can sustain its growth amidst potential regulatory and market challenges?